Well, let's go back to our earlier story, the unrest in Zimbabwe. I'm joined now by Crisis in Zimbabwe Coalition's Regional Coordinator, Blessing Vava, who joins us out of Johannesburg. Blessing, lovely to talk with you. The Human Rights Commission has been highly critical of the way troops and alleged assaults were carried out to try and quell demonstrations. How did you see that use of force?
The use of force by Zimbabwe's security forces was quite barbaric and very disturbing. That you unleash such kind of terror, such kind of artillery, and firing live bullets on unarmed civilians. It is shocking, to say the least, and we are very much disturbed about the events that are happening in Zimbabwe, where people are just being killed willy-nilly and without any accountability on the part of the government of Zimbabwe.
And in fact, in a functioning democracy, protests around high inflation like that would be completely acceptable.
It is not the case in Zimbabwe. I'm sure you have seen, the world has seen that we are dealing with a barbaric government. We are dealing with a military regime. We are dealing with a military junta that does not respect the rule of law, that do not allow citizens to express themselves. You also saw the shutting down of the internet, which in essence was the curtailment of the right to access to information. And in this day and era, where have you seen a country that shuts the internet, does not allow citizens to express themselves on social media?
The President has condemned the actions of the military, says it will be investigated. How serious do you think he is at stamping out this kind of behaviour and reaction?
I think first and foremost, he is not serious because he's not acknowledging the actions of his government. He should acknowledge that the people were killed by his military. And also, it was quite shocking that he also believes that the citizens, stole army uniforms. Is he telling us that even guns were stolen? Because those who were seen, killing people, those who were seen using those guns are people who are highly trained to use those guns. Not an ordinary civilian can operate an automatic rifle. And also, what we have seen from President Mnangagwa is only his tweets. He's responding to this on tweets. Not in any way have we seen him on television condemning the acts of barbarism that we've witnessed. Not in any effort that he has done so far, even to visit the families of the people that were killed. And also, you know that this thing did not only happen last week. On the 1st of August last year, we had soldiers that killed 5 people in broad daylight, but there was not even an effort on the part of President Mnangagwa even to go and console those families, or even the government to take responsibility of the deaths of those people. So I think that he's just trying to play a public relations stunt. We know that after the August 1 shooting, there was a commission of inquiry led by former South African President Kgalema Motlanthe that looked into the events of the 1st of August. And they did give their recommendations. But up until today, it's quite shocking that there have not been any conviction to show that Mr. Mnangagwa is really serious in terms of dealing with such levels of barbarism within the security forces. And now it is the same way again, that there is no commitment. If I should say, now they are talking of a dialogue. How do you talk of a dialogue when the soldiers are still in the streets? How do you talk of a dialogue when people are still being abducted? How do you talk of dialogue when people are still being arrested? And how do you talk of dialogue when the whole country, people are living in fear?
Does this issue go beyond fuel prices, Blessing?
I don't believe that it goes beyond the fuel crisis. I think first and foremost, this is emanating from the events, the unfortunate events of November 13 in 2017, when the military abrogated their constitutional duty to unseat a sitting head of state. You know that there was a military coup that happened in November, and that also set a wrong precedent in our country, in that the constitution was violated in that regard. After that, we had elections that happened last year, and those elections were marred by, allegations of voter rigging, and there was a dispute. In that election. So we are coming from a country that is suffering a legitimacy crisis on the part of the sitting president, and also that political crisis has not enabled the economy of Zimbabwe to function properly. This is what precipitated the events of last week that then led to the people of Zimbabwe to say enough is enough. We need to call the government to account. We need to demand that the government improve our economy. We need to demand that the government make sure that remuneration of civil servants, to make sure that the civil servants also get better remuneration, and all the other things that are affecting the economy of the country.
How will that legitimacy crisis, though, be overcome?
The legitimacy crisis can only be overcome if Mr. Mnangagwa admits that he did not win those elections. He stole those elections. We know the circumstances that led to him being declared the winner of those elections. We also want Mr. Mnangagwa to acknowledge that there is a need for us to undergo some certain reforms, the electoral reforms, security sector reforms, and restore the rule of law. In Zimbabwe, what is happening now, we are almost under martial law, where the constitution has literally been suspended by Mr. Mnangagwa. But above all, despite the fake calls by Mr. Mnangagwa for a dialogue, I still believe that Zimbabweans indeed need a dialogue, but not the kind of dialogue that Mr. Mnangagwa is proposing, because we believe that he has been the biggest perpetrator of the violations that are currently happening in Zimbabwe. But however, the people of Zimbabwe should be able to participate in an inclusive dialogue, in an open dialogue that is led by an independent person or independent body, to make sure that the problems of Zimbabwe are solved once and for all.
And do you think the situation has actually deteriorated under Mnangagwa's rule?
It has deteriorated. Once you see the military involving themselves in civilian affairs, then you should know that you are inviting disaster. Once you see the military taking over the running of the government, then you know that we are in a serious problem. Yes, we had problems with our former president, Robert Mugabe, but the way in which the soldiers are now being deployed, in the way in which the soldiers are now being unleashed to protesting civilians as a way of silencing their voices is quite shocking. In fact, Zimbabwe has slid way backwards in terms of as far as human rights violations are concerned.
Blessings, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me.